and governance. We're going back on my module books. There's module DD103. Let me just put my class box on because I want everyone. I'm doing like a book for, some people that struggle to read. They want to lay in bed. They want to listen to they want to listen to the reading back. So we started investigating the social world 1. I finished investigating the social world 2 on my. This is edited by Karim Murji. So the module DD103. Anyone following the module DD103, investigating the social world? Anyone that has trouble reading, you can listen to it back via audio books on YouTube. We're on the investigating the social world 2, and anyway, the study of home is approached through 2 of the key concerns of sociology: social change and social divisions. How does the home provide a setting through which social change is evident? In what does the home reflect and reproduce social divisions? To help you start thinking about this, look at activity 1. Look at activity. Now think about your current home or any other home you recall. Was there a pattern to who did what kind of work in your home? So think of sociological change as growing up as a kid. I mean, I'm an adult now, mature adult, 37. When I used to live with my parents, I probably helped out with the dishwasher. We helped out with the dishwasher, cut the lawn for, pops every now and then. But now I live on my own. I'll do it all on my own now. I do all my own iron my own bed sheets, iron my own clothes. Things have changed. I'm in like what I like to call a aristocracy kind of area. It's a nice quiet area. When you're talking on criminology, it's very, very quiet and quite nice. I call it the aristocracy kind of aristocracy area. Anyway, discussion. Think about places you have lived may have led you to consider the ways in which they are or could be. Many reasons and causes for moving home: changing jobs, moving to other countries or other parts of the same country, or changes in family life are some examples. These suggest that moving home can be prompted by personal issues, e.g. the birth of a new child or economic issues. Changes in the job market. How these sorts of personal individual changes can be related to bigger sociological picture is taken up in the next section. The question of who does what kind of work in the home begins to bring out issue of inequality, particularly gender inequality, but also inequalities due to class and age. This will be explored later in the chapter by introducing ideas about these uses of time and space in the home. The changing presence and role of technology in the home can also help us to identify social change and provide a way of understanding social divisions and inequalities. How technology structures time and space in the home is a key concern of this chapter. These dimensions, time and space, are useful and inequalities between groups of people in the home. The term social divisions refers to entrenched, persistent and continuing distance between groups of people, which sociologists explain in terms of categories such as social class, gender, age, ethnicity, race, sexuality and disability. In these categories of social division, patterns of inequality tend to occur over time and across generations. Although some degree of social change is possible, many people are not necessarily trapped by their circumstances at birth. An overall picture of inequalities between groups persists over time. As the reason for the patterns are more than a matter of individual or group decisions, they are referred to as social. It is important to add these categories that they do not exist in separate compartments, but are connected in various and different ways. They intersect, as will be highlighted at various points throughout this chapter. This chapter will draw on the home as an example to examine social change to the social division. Provide a range of qualitative and quantitative evidence to explore social change and social divisions. Show how sociologists draw on ideas of time and space to explore differences and inequalities in the home, particularly in relation to gender and age division. The person that doesn't do the work, or the person that does do the work, because the person that is doing the work, which is 9 times out of 10 a woman in a relationship household, it's usually the woman that does all the cleaning. As I've researched this book already, I know it's within 1 in 5 men do the household work, like washing up, using the washing machine. Men become buying idle to use the washing machine and let the woman do the job. But doing the job is keeping yourself mentally and physically active, isn't it? You get up in the morning, you've got to get up and do your chores. It's keeping you mentally and physically active. That's one thing that needs to change, in equalities, in relationships, absolutely. Home and social change examines historical changes in household composition and the link between personal lives and social trends. Section 2. All the mods and cons, time and equality. Focus on the practice of doing the laundry in relation to gender and the use of domestic time. Section 3. Space at home from codes to zones. Explores intergenerational differences regarding the uses of home space, time and space and gender generation. Frame this chapter, exploration of social divisions in the home. Home and social change. Social change includes both large and small scale changes. The home is an interesting setting in which change can be observed. Living in cities or towns. Relationship choices to marry or not, to have children or not, or to live together in a smaller or larger unit are all instances that contribute to the sense of social change when considered at a large scale or at a societal level. So some people might have social change in a region of kids growing up. They want to move to near a city where there's more activities for children, more jobs, easy to commute to work. Perhaps there's a lot of reasons why people have social change, or they can now afford their kids to go to private school. So you move. I mean, throughout my years of growing up, I was brought up in a government-funded school, so we had all the walks of life coming in. Or kids ASBO because their parents are alcoholics and stuff and narcotic abusers, and a lot of kids are ASBOs, and we had a lot of naughty kids. But that's why I'm doing my education in my latter years, because I lacked, concentration. So I'm doing it now at the age of 37. Never too late though. Anyway, think about the places you've lived, like in the activity 1, may have led you to consider how places have changed, for example. You could have moved from a parental home to live with friends or partner. You may have had your own family or lived on your own. Perhaps you thought about the people you lived with in each of the homes you had. The changes of your home of living combined with many other individuals. Home lives give a pattern of what home life is like on a larger scale. At a national level, the composition of the home and how it was changed over the time provides a way of tracing social change. To look at this large-scale survey, data provides a snapshot of household composition at various points in time. Exploring changes over time reveals the nature or direction of social change. We're gonna look at this. I've got a table on this activity too. It's quite interesting. You see the difference in the social change. Look at the table in data 1.1. You may notice some boxes do not contain data. Why do you think this is? 2 columns, 1979 and 2007, add up to 99 rather than 100. This is due rounding down to give the whole numbers in a table. Now you can identify which is the largest change in the household type over the period of 1949 to 2013. So, looking at the household type, single person. In 1949, there's 5 people in a single person household. And then they've got married, cohabitating, no child. I'm not going to go all through that table, to be honest with you, because it's going to be boring for you. Married, cohabitating, child, under 16, 30, 1979 is 31, 22. No, it's not even worth going through that, it's going to bore you. There is slightly a different way of exploring a change in table 1.2. Looks at the total number of people in the household in the UK over the same period. Look at the figures table 1.2 in this table. No columns add up to 100. This is because figures for a single person household have been removed from table 1.1. Can you see how to read 1.2? Work out a percentage of a single person household. Look only at columns 2007 and 2013. Right. Number of large households and an increase in the number of single person households. Although the data in these tables provides a guide about the nature of direction of social change, it does not give us any explanation for the causes of changes. Sociologists stress that there are many causes that explain these changes, including changes in fertility, behaviour, the decision about when to have children and how many to have, changes in expectation of relationships and marriage, and increases in divorce. So you can imagine, like now, because you got population growth scientists controlling birth control and whatever. So at this time, we've got this public austerity, not allowed to leave your bubble, pandemic influenza, if you like. It'd be a decrease in having babies, on it. Be a decrease in having children because a lot of partners live apart and they can't go and see each other because of the lockdown. Some of these may produce smaller households, but divorce and the formation of new relationships and new families could lead to an increase in larger blended family households. Other factors to consider include a lack of housing stock, unaffordability of housing, and a state of economic and debt levels. Increased life expectancy can also affect the change in household composition and the rise of single-person homes. The latter is sometimes discussed in rather sensationalist terms such as a demographic time bomb. This phrase masks the fact that there are considerable differences in how long people live depending on regional location and social class. This data in tables 1.1 and 1.2 shows and the makeup of the households and families has been changing over several generations. These changes are social concerns for a variety of reasons, such as demands on housing and health services, the welfare of children, loneliness and social isolation, and the balance between the working and retired populations. Hello, like, what are you doing, girl? Didn't know you're there. This signals how private issues is, at the same time, also a matter for policy, politics and economics. The image of the nuclear family, once so familiar in TV soap operas, has been drastically. Yeah, I'm very well, you? How you been keeping for the lockdown? You been alright? Did you have a good Christmas and New Year? And the consequences of changes are argued by the people with different viewpoints on whether such changes are good or are bad things. Personal and career choices, as well as the housing market, housing policies, and the state of the economy, are all bound up in the patterns in tables 1.1 and tables 1.2 indicate. Therefore, personal choices are never independent of broader economic, social, and political context in which may occur. Macro sociology. Look at large-scale changes in society and the economy, such as industrialisation and urbanisation, and see them as leading to the rise of the nuclear family and a decline in the size of the household. However, micro-sociology sees a small-scale decision that each of us makes about our families. Page 11 on investigating social world 1. Relationships and work, such as choosing to marry later, not to stay married, to have a certain number of children or none at all, and so on, as contributing to the formation of home and its meanings in current times, rather than determining the other macro and micro dimensions. of social life intersect in various ways. Sociology interest is in understanding how the process interconnect. Interest is in understanding how these processes interconnect. US sociologist Charles Wright Mills, 1916 to 1960. Neither the life of an individual nor the history of society can be understood without understanding both. Mills, 1971. Mills states an important role for sociology in bridging and linking individual lives and choices with wider social and historical environments in which they are located. Why in his view, ordinary people do not see their lives in these terms. The job of sociology is to explore and develop an understanding of these connections. In the summary, sociology concerns include the investigation of social change in the home. I mean, just think of a sociology change in a, you know, from growing up, getting mature years, getting into your 60s, 50s, you sort of brought up in a semi-medium, what I call suburban area, like, near a town, you got all kinds of, all the walks of life living there. You want a bit of a busier life at a young age, in your 20s, maybe 30s. You get into 40s, 50s, you want to move for the outskirts of a town or a city, a bit of a quiet life to settle down with your life, perhaps. Even like elder folks, older, like 50s, 60s, they want to start joining church communities. They just want to settle down and enjoy the rest of their life, the remainder of their life. They made it this far, they want to enjoy the rest of their life, see their grandkids. So they move. This is what sociology change, you got to think, have a deflect of what they mean by sociology change. That's what you call a good reader. Something that, I've done this as part of my academic integrity already, but I'm just going back through it. Sociology change can be evidenced through the composition of households over time. Sociology connects private matters and social issues through the investigation of patterns. You're reading at your own life, it's called analysing pages. All mods and cons, time and equality, this would be good for a lot of people. A lot of it, this is over time. And all the mods and cons have changed over time, and equality. And who uses them? Who uses all the mods and cons in your household? You got your mum, your dad, you got your brother and sister in the house. I mean, your sister's probably a bit better ironing what you was yourself, for your man, and a lot of things that you notice. This section draws on some aspects of technology in the home to explore social change and the ways they relate to social divisions of gender and age or generation. Technology can refer to a wide range of objects in the home, but the focus here is on everyday and mundane technologies such as washing machines, TVs and computers. So you got washing machines in a household, man, boy, grown-up boy, and the wife of the household, and a daughter. The TV and the computer is going to be used. It's been researched already. It's going to be used more by the man, by the woman who uses the washing machine. Women do watch their TV programs, but usually, the women will be doing the washing machine, doing all the chores in the kitchen, while the man is to buy an idol. He'll be sitting there. I don't have to turn it on. I don't have to use it. So so you get a bit of an idea where that's just how my assignment went pretty much, but a bit more technical than that. Household technologies such as fridges and microwave ovens are now near universal household durables, i.e. goods at last several years and can be found in almost all homes. Nonetheless, the use of these technologies is marked by considerable disparities and division, with such as social class. I mean, social class is like the dad will go, say to his missus, I don't use a washing machine, and the son's going to follow suit as his father. So the daughter ends up getting involved as well to help mother out. That's usually what happens. It's like a social class that all go in the same direction through the examples in the family tree. For example, in 1956, 42% of all households in the professional and manual class category owned a washing machine, but only 13% of women in the skilled, semi-skilled and unskilled household category owned one. So owning a washing machine in 1956 was a status symbol, a marker of your professional class. Today, with washing machine ownership nearly universal, ownership has become about more than possessing a functional object. Owning a brand name or a particular colour or design are seen as signals about lifestyle choices. Thus, the type of technology, rather than the mere ownership, suggests that these values and identities indicate that social division have social, cultural, and economic dimensions. I remember when I was at well, I thought I was almost at the peak of my life. I didn't have anything. I had to wash my clothes in the washing machine, in the shower at one point. When I lost my had a bit of a rough time. Got stuck in some places, fun old places, and yeah, I had to wash my clothes in the bath in the shower. Luckily, I've got my head well above water now, and I'm doing quite very well for myself. Anyway, page 12, here we go. Doing the washing machine at home. A wide variety of commonplace objects in the home, ranging from washing machine to microwave oven, have been promoted as labour and time-saving devices to make home life easier. The phrase all modern conveniences originated in the 1930s and a way used by householders and marketing agents to suggest that desirable home contain modern technology. The history of time-saving devices, though, goes back further. For over a century, homes have been targeted by manufacturers and advertisers with a variety of devices: vacuum cleaners, washing machines, dishwashers, microwaves, ovens, and juicers, among the many objects that have been marked in this way. Their overall purpose is to make modern life easier by reducing the amount of time and effort involved in everyday activities. This concern with speed and convenience indicates how essential time is. It is something to be saved and not washed, not expended. Domestic technology therefore offers a good way of exploring use of time in the home. Laundry technology in the home provides one illustration through which to examine whether time can be saved or rather relocated to reportioned. Further questions asked are those whose labour or work is saved and how many different uses in time as a resource contribute to social division. There you go. The example demonstrates how sociologists study. So I already know this. I've already told you the answer to this. I've done it already. Everyday routines, in particular, gender patterns of work and time in the home. Here we go. We're going for the survey they had. In the 1990s, United States and Europe, electric motors were attached to washing machines to move the dolly, a stick inserted into the tub to aggregate the clothes, and to operate the wringer that clothes were put through to squeeze out the water. Before that, washing was largely a matter of using a hand wringer, a scrubbing brush, and a cake of soap. Technology innovations progressed over the following 50 years towards automated laundering. The aim was to reduce effort, time and skill. The washing day troubles are solved. It takes half the time to do the laundry. And look at mummy's washing doing it itself, were headlines inadverts to washing machines. See that? Look at mummy doing the washing. So you know when we get through to the where they've done the what's it called? Netiquette research, the survey through people counting who've done the laundry in the house. It's you know in traditional terms, it's always the women doing the washing machine, and this is going into a netiquette research in the modern world today. And still, the women do the washing in the house. Although I do it in mine because I live on my own, but you know, spend a few minutes thinking about who does the laundry in your home. How much time does it take, and whose time is spent on it? Look at Sylvia carried out a qualitative study of 24 families. These families were different class and ethnicity, located in various towns in England. Some were assessed by a market research company, others by personal contacts and snowballing. The researcher used interviews and participant observation. In the research, the washing machine was often as the most useful machine in the home by all women interviewed except two who chose the cooker. One participant who chose the washing machine, Lindsay Wells, said, "I couldn't cope without the washing machine. I'd go into panic stations." Without the washer, however, when men were asked the same question, responses were quite different. Colin Allison said the TV was the most useful machine in his home, and washing machine the least useful. Yet the Allison household, which two adults and four children, one being a baby, did 29 loads of laundry every week. Other families also had quite intensive laundry practices. Three households did 20 loads a week. Six households did between 8 and 14 loads. 11 did between 4 and 7, and only in 3 homes were less than 3 loads of washing done weekly. The number of people in the household and the ages of children were significant factors in accounting for the number of washes done. The difference in opinion between Lindsay Wells and Colin Allison set out starkly the difference between women and men in the study. Lindsay couldn't cope without the washing machine. But the mundane process of washing clothes seems to be irrelevant to Colin. Put clothes in a basket and they get clean, said Gabrielle. Another man in the study, only 5 men were involved in a weekly wash. Generally men might use avoidance strategies such as claiming lack of competence. I might put clothes in. I wouldn't risk setting it up without asking Francis because I'm not au fait with how to use or what settings to put stuff on, said Robert. Daniel said he didn't usually do the laundry because I've got some clothes mixed up. I don't do it now. She doesn't let me use it. I don't try to get to know things like that. It is worth remembering this is an example of small-scale qualitative research, and these findings should not be assumed to hold true for everyone. 2 points of interest emerge from this. First, laundry activities in the home have changed considerably because of technology improvements. Another point to consider is that a machines make cleaning less of a heavy duty. They also have the effect of changing ideas about standards of cleanliness. You know, back then, you've got a machine, you might have got what they call it, when you buy a second-hand good, it's been remade, reconditioned. You know, it might not be as powerful as some of the rich folks that can afford a brand new one, you know, the middle-class people. Thus, some have argued that actually making more work for women. So as well as saving time, it appears that domestic labour saving devices can have the effect of reapportioning time. Gershony 2000 captured the essence of this point. When the laundry service disappeared and we bought a washing machine, we had to work the washing machine at home. Second, even when technological development appears to make life easier, it is marked by social division, particularly those of gender studies from the 1990s and 2000s. Cockburn and Ormrod, 1993, it indicate that there was a common view that white goods, fridges, washing machines, tumble dryers and dishwashers were regarded as women's goods for the household, while black goods, TV, video players and game consoles were treated as mean goods and for entertainment. Time and quality. The practice of laundry and the domestic washing machine indicated that the routine of everyday activities revealed patterns of inequality in the home. Feminist sociologists have long argued the household remains an invisible and unpaid activity, even though it is vital to maintain and enabling the world of paid employment. Trees and Drobnik. Housework is also a highly gender-divided activity, with women doing most of it. Time use researchers provide a way of looking at gender divide, and the home is a key setting where time inequality, both its extent and changes in its nature, can be seen. This way of discussing time may seem unfamiliar or even strange. Social scientists make an important distinction between natural or linear and social or actual time. The term time arrow suggests that experience of time is a linear movement from beginning to end. Over the course of a lifetime, however, the social or actual experience of time is more cyclical and repetitive. Days, weeks, or even years are marked by repetition and routine. The home is a space where routine and repetition are commonplace, so it provides a useful site to investigate time use. In examples from Silver's 210 study, doing the laundry was not equally shared. Men and women have very different ideas about the most useful or valuable machines in the home, and there was evident inequality in the time spent on laundry. It could be argued it reflected a particular arrangement of the household. Silver research. It is not possible to generalize about all households from the small scale study. To make a wider argument about time inequality, it is necessary to look to other sources of evidence and other forms of research that corroborate how time is divided in the home. The following two examples utilize quantitative research to examine time inequality and agenda. First, Sayer 2005 presents and assesses two competing arguments on time use in the United States from the 1960s to the 1990s. The first argument is that differences in time used between men and women are converging or narrowing because men are doing more unpaid work, housework, and less paid work, while conversely women are doing more paid and less unpaid work. The other opposing viewpoint she considers is that women have less leisure time because they have substantially increased paid work, while men have only marginally increased unpaid work. By comparing the national time use surveys, Sayer found that across the time period, men have indeed increased the time they spend on unpaid work. She also discovered the nature of the unpaid work has changed, with more emphasis on activities such as childcare and cooking. However, Sayer found that a 30-minute per day, 3-minute gap between men and women still exists, underlining the persistence of time inequalities. Second in the study, Australia, Bittman and colleagues 2014 analysed a time survey to investigate time spent using for specific technologies: the microwave oven, dishwasher, tumble dryer and lawnmower. This research found that domestic technologies such as microwaves did not have save women time, and time spent on food preparation was not produced overall. When it came to laundry, the study found that this is a highly gender segregated activity, with women's time accounting for 88% of all time spent on it. In a contrast, men's time accounted for 57% of all time spent on gardening and grounds care. In the terms of actual time use, nanotechnologies reduced the amount of time women spent on housework. Tumble dryers increased the time they spent on laundry, while the microwave oven and dishwasher had no significant impact on time spent. So domestic technology may reduce labour, but it does not appear to reduce gender time inequalities. It's about microwave actually. You're family of 4. You buy 4 microwave meals. It probably take just about as much time to cook them, cook them in the oven. You buy these microwave meals, 4 of them, again, 5 minutes each. That's 20 minutes. You can almost cook a meal in the oven 25 minutes, half hour, can't you? So you're better off, if you've got a big family, you're like 4 family, you're better off just using the oven. Taken together, these studies support the argument that women and men use time differently. Gender is significant to variation of time because women generally subordinate economic and social positions as a result of persistent social divisions that constrain their use of time. Although changes do not occur over time, the gap between men's and women's domestic activities remains significant. Time use patterns are linked to dual time schemes of home and work, unpaid and paid labour. Home is marked by social division in both time and availability and use. In this way, time inequality is both an instrument of social divisions and a consequence of it. The next section explores another aspect of home, in which social divisions are evident space. In a summary, technology use in the home is marked by gender divisions. Time use data shows a clear division between women and men. Time use in the home is an important measure of gendered social inequality. Page 19, ladies and gentlemen, following investigating the social world 1, module DD 103. Space at home, from codes to zones. Social scientists think about in a way that's quite different from its everyday uses. French philosopher and sociologist Henri Lefebvre, 1991, argues that space is not inert or neutral. Rather, it is something that is socially produced in an ongoing way, and there are meanings and consequences attached to it. He suggests that space is produced as representations of space. The formal plans developed by planners and map makers. Spatial practice, the everyday ways in which space is experienced and lived. However, the boundary between them is fluid rather than fixed. This section explores the concept of representation of space and spatial practice in relation to codes and zones in a home. The arrangement of space in a home reveals social code and the different spaces when it's designated as appropriate for different kinds of people, for example. Figure 1.2 depicts a layout of a Victorian house. It may look like just a house, but divisions of class and gender are encoded into its design. Although not typical for most of the population, a large middle or upper class house in the 19th century was designed to have servants living on the top floor. They needed to be physically enabled and often young to cope with the demand of moving around the house. Segregated staircases and hallways were designed to avoid encounters between masters and servants. Some houses even have had separate spaces and staircases for women and men. Smoking rooms were men's spaces. Drawing and morning rooms were intended for women. These separate spaces signal both a sexual and social class code of appropriate space for men and women, and for lower and upper classes. The design of home spaces is marked by cultural and historical patterns of class divisions and gender relations. Historical patterns have varied significantly within and between countries and still do today. Lack of space and concerns about security, heightened in countries of great inequalities, has led to wealthy owners being guarded within high buildings, with gates or walls by concierges, porters and security personnel. However, such properties can also be marked as a luxury and wealth. Even the design of contemporary luxury apartments can reveal a version of the Victorian household model. For instance, the floor plan of the expensive apartment block, figure 1.3, show a service entrance and servants' quarters that are separate from the main living area of the family. The presence of living servants is not common and most people have simpler living arrangements. But examples of a Victorian house and contemporary apartments suggest how space can be viewed. Sociology. The design of home and the arrangement of space reflect the social divisions and social relations within. These floor layouts are examples of Lefebvre's representation of Spain, planned to contain and reflect the planners and owners' idealised sense of social relations with the space. 3.2. Live space in the home. The ways in which space is lived within the home. Spatial practice can be seen in an example taken from Silver's 2.10 study, which explores the relations between space, objects and technology in the home. The Churchills are a family, a man, a woman and 3 children live in a semi-detached Victorian house in London. When Diane 43 and Mark 44 started living together, Diane's twin brother lived with them. The 4 of them bought a house jointly in the mid-1980s later on. Diane and Mark bought the brother's share. One of the twins had married and moved elsewhere, but the other twin, Kirk, still lived in the same house in the bedsit on the top floor. He had his own bedroom and bathroom. He did his own laundry, worked shifts and was rarely at home. When he was in, he ate the rest of the family. Children enjoyed his company and watched TV in his bedroom. The family chose to have another TV in the house, but had 4 computers and games consoles instead. They ate their meals together. The way the household worked had to do with how it had evolved. Daily life was managed in an egalitarian way, so it's not assumed that Diane was responsible for the housework. The children were involved in a number of housework tasks. Greg 15 cooked their evening meal twice a week and usually tied up after meals. While Hannah 11 and Alice 9 unloaded the dishwasher and the washing machine, hung clothes to dry, dried some in a tumble dryer, and checked and distributed clothes on people's beds once they were ready. Their use of space in their house was also distinctive. The front room belonged to Diane and Mark. They went into every evening after dinner to have coffee, talk and listen to music, or to read. The children only went in there when they was invited. Mark's office occupied the second room downstairs. The kitchen dining area had recently refurbished. This was a place for family sociability, so in the house there were designated spaces of particular sorts of relationships. As a family, they met predominantly in the kitchen because the couple had their own private room and Mark's work had its dedicated space. This description of one family and their home is an example. It is useful to illustrate a point without claiming that it is typical. The size of the house and the fact that it contains separate bedsit flats indicates the high and social class of occupants. The ways which space is divided and used suggest gender and generational relations within the house. Diane and Mark Churchill were both in professional executive occupations. Mark was at home nearly full-time while Diane worked outside the home full-time, and they dealt with gender roles in flexible ways. Greg and his father were in charge of cooking, while the daughters shared the laundry duties. However, they also employed a female cleaner. The vast majority of this kind of paid domestic work is done by women on quite low levels of pay. The phrase cash rich time poor captures the sense of wealthy. Busy professional people who draw on domestic assistance to manage their work-life balance. The role that everyday technologies play in a Churchill home is revealing of the domestic gender and generational arrangements for all egalitarian concerns exhibited by Diane and Mark. The distribution of tasks between the 3 children and somewhat gendered. The boy cooks, the girl does the laundry, and divided by age. The children could only watch TV in their uncle's bedroom since their patterns did not work, not own one. Parents didn't own one. TVs are one of the most widely used consumer durables found in almost every home in Britain. A look at the history of this everyday object reveals how much it has changed social relations and the use of space in the home. A TV ownership spread the 1950s. A question arose for families about the room it belonged in, as each room already had predefined purpose. As Spiegel shows, families had to literally make room for the TV in the home. Most families decided to put it in the front room, a decision that marked an incursion into a household space that had been reserved for adults, leading in some way to the creation of living room or lounge, as it is now often called. Open plan spaces such as linked living room and dining rooms and kitchen, for which TV can be viewed in Livingstone, are extensions of central role and the place of TV in a household object, shaping the use of a space in the home. There's also some evidence, about somewhat dated, that some new gender division and morals were produced, such as the domination of the remote control by men, and their preference for sports over their kind of women's programs, like soaps, EastEnders, Home and Away. Men like Top Gear as well, didn't they? Now that you have looked at the outline of a Victorian house and a contemporary luxury apartment, and read about churches, how do these situations differ from your own residence and living arrangements? In the discussion, this activity may help you to think about what space in your own home reflects social relations. It may be quite different from the examples you have just read about. In the common examples, it is likely to be shaped by social divisions such as ideas, gender and age. Examples of TV in churches household are instances of spatial practice, how space is mapped on actual use, and how it is lived on an everyday basis. The idea of zones described in the following section extend this way of thinking about spaces. 3.3 Zone 1 Young People and Bedroom Culture. The idea of bedroom culture originated in the 1970s as it is criticism of the predominant focus by sociologists on what boys and young men did in the public places such as the streets, schools or football grounds. Bedroom culture provided a gender-based response to the emphasis on the street culture as a masculinized space. Feminist scholars such as McRobbie and Garber, 1976, looked at what girls did. In the home, they highlighted that the bedroom as a space where girls and young women were active in developing their identities by putting up posters, reading magazines, and practicing applying their makeup. The bedroom was private space, physically apart from the parents and sometimes from siblings too. It provided a means of managing social relations within the home by keeping the space or zone separate from the adult world. Page 25. Page 25. So if you guys are reading this module with me on Castbox, YouTube, I'm on Facebook as well. But if you're listening, reading, keeping up to date with your module, please do. Feel free to. We're on module DD103, Investigating the Social World 1. Chapter 3, Space at Home, from the codes to zones. Talking about sexuality, ethnicity, race and gender. It was suggested earlier in this chapter that housing design can be viewed in the terms of codes. Lincoln, 2004, suggests zone is a better term to understanding something such as bedroom culture. She argues that is because codes are cultural and symbolic. But the notion of zones stresses the physical arrangements of objects, furniture, and technology in a particular space. It is therefore more concerned with how material objects are arranged and their roles in structuring space and social relations. Whereas codes tend to keep people, spaces, and objects apart, Lincoln 2004 used zones as a way of thinking about how spaces might also overlap and integrate. Among the most significant objects she identifies are the TV, music system, computer, and mobile phone. The increased presence of these in some homes may lead families to spend more time together in the living room. For instance, it may also lead to more separation within the household as people do things on their own, such as surfing interests, for example. Page 26. Going a bit slow today, I'm not getting through the book as fast. Think about the content of your bedroom when you were a child. The furniture and objects, such as technology in it. Did the arrangement of these objects reflect your own style or personality? What difference do you think that being female male made during your experience of a bedroom culture? To think about the bedroom as a zone, emphasise the presence of material objects in that space and how objects shape and contribute to social relations in the home. In recent decades, there has been a growth in multiple TV sets in the home, as well as a proliferation of actual television channels due to the spread of satellite and cable services. However, the rise in digitally connected households is more marked than the increase in the number of TVs per household within TV ownership in the UK, showing signs of slowing since 2010. The BARB 2015. The rapid development of digital and communication technology is commonly regarded as heralding in a generational divide. At the time of writing, young people under 16 are sometimes referred to as digital natives because such resources have been present throughout. Technology is more of a ever-present phenomenon in their lives of young people. Terms such as native immigrants exaggerate the extent to which older people are resistant to technology. There is evidence that older people divide almost equally between critical and adapting in terms of accepting technology. Livingstone 2007 has pointed out that in the media-rich homes and bedrooms, there has been a multiplication of domestic media goods as well as diversification, a more and different media goods are acquired. She stresses that these developments have tended to make bedrooms, especially for children in more prosperous households who have a room of their own, into spaces for private consumption of media and of TV and internet in particular in turn. The living room becomes a shared space from when families spend time together. Her research shows that the bedroom becomes a space where young people say they can escape to and have some fun, freedom from parental supervision, living together separately, in a phrase that captures this sense of family. Thinking back to bedroom culture in the 1970s, however, there are still continuities as young people then also sought the bedroom as space to keep them apart from the rest of the household. In spite of this, technology developments can also be seen as bringing people together in different ways. For example, talking with friends and relatives via social media and video chat facilities such as Skype. This indicates that the relationship between technology and social change does not just go in one direction. Who uses which zones in the home is divided by social class. Many young people share a bedroom as well as gender, so all those divisions intersect rather than exist in separate compartments. The meanings and roles of technology in the home also vary by age, and the next section focused on older people. Page 27, you guys will follow me. 3.4, Zone 2, Older People and Kitchen Technology. At the beginning of this chapter, I mentioned the increase of people living alone, and apart from the reason for this is the rise of life expectancy. For many older people, living at home feels more dignified and secure than living in an old people's home. The technology can have an important role to play enabling older people to live at home, allowing them to stay in a place that is familiar rather than strange, giving them a degree of autonomy rather than dependency. This idea of home chimes with the view that it is a safe, comforting and familiar space. Evidence supports this idea that older people are the group least likely to move home. UK policy think tank, the Joseph Rowntree Foundation, found that only 3% of the households with no one age under 55 more move every year. It also found that people aged 75 years or older are least likely to move home. Panel et al. 2012. There are probably many reasons for this, including, for example, economic factors and family ties. The discussion of older people and technology at home is sometimes framed in terms of assisted living. The use of technical aids can enable people to adapt to the home environment, thus allowing them to remain at home. This includes adaptation to the home that make mobility easier. However, in addition, the place of ordinary everyday technology is useful for thinking about the use of space in the home. Research finds essential heating, TVs and washing machines appear to have greater impact on quality of home than more cutting-edge technologies, with older people stressing that design and usability of these everyday objects matter. Page 28. More for the quality of home environment than owning the latest technology age. A research study on the kitchen and how it can be adapted for older people at home was carried out by Open University in Maguire. The purpose of the study was to identify ways of assisting people to maintain the desired independence and autonomy at home. Such studies investigate how zone of the kitchen is actually lived and used. Maguire et al. Study was qualitative and used in semi-structured interview of 48 people in their 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s. The first part of the interview was about the kitchen history, their relocation of all kitchens they had known in the yards. The second part was focused on the kitchen in their current home. Thinking about your own kitchen history will be useful in framing the rest of this section. Describe the kitchens in the places you have lived. What memories do they evoke of home life? Briefly think about the kitchen at your current home. How well suited is it to your physical abilities and, if applicable, how do you cope with any problems in using it? The people interviewed in this study recalled the kitchen of the early 20th century as usually being the cosiest room in the house, and its warmth was obviously important in the period before the spread of central heating. They also saw a kitchen as a space occupied by most of their family members. It was a space in which many different activities were carried out, including mending and making, reading and listening to the radio, playing games, as well as the activities in the kitchen is most usually known for cooking, cleaning, and sometimes eating. These recollections indicate that the kitchen once provided a space rather than what goes on in the living room of the contemporary home. The spread of central heating as well as the advent of TV are among the technologies increasing the gap in the kitchen and other rooms in the house. Nevertheless, for the people interviewed in the study, the kitchen retained its key or central role. It remains an important hub for people's homes, a multifunctional space for a range of activities including baking, washing clothes, writing letters, having tea with a friend, or feeding the pets. Older people often find it personally rewarding to continue with familiar kitchen routines and such skills known throughout their lives. I'll finish on this page, David. However, when talking about the current kitchen, difficulties were identified across the range of those interviewed. They were most commonly connected to being able to reach and bend toward cupboards and appliances, sight and lighting problems with the small size construction of packets, and visibility of displays and cookers, for example. A dexterity opening jars or tins using a can opener in practice. The people in the study had improvised a range of solutions for these difficulties, including the use of magnifying glasses, modifying cupboards and shelves, such as using casserole shelving, and even installing and takeaway microwave ovens in one case, in relation to everyday domestic technology, the microwave oven, cooker, dishwasher, and washing machine, and others. The iron, for example, it is useful to recall all these developed and solved and time-saving dishes designed to make housework easier. Thank you, ladies and gents. I'll call that it. Thank you so much. Thank you on Castbox. You can follow me on here. I'm on Proclamation News and Governance.